Every Halloween, some houses light up and celebrate, and some stay dark for a reason. If you're new here, make sure to subscribe before you turn off the lights tonight, because what you're about to hear really happened. That Halloween, I was 15, and my neighbor, Mrs. Clark, asked if I could babysit her daughter, Ava, while she went to a small party. I said yes, mostly because she paid well, and her house was only across the street from mine. It was a calm night. Kids were still running around the neighborhood, laughing and shouting trick or treat, their voices echoing through the cold October air. The Clark's house sat right across from an old, empty home everyone in town whispered about. Nobody had lived there for almost 10 years, ever since the Harris family moved away after their daughter died. They said the girl fell down the stairs one night. The details changed every year, but the story never really went away. I didn't believe in ghost stories, though. At least, not then. When I got to the Clark's house, around 7:30, Ava was already in her pajamas, watching a Halloween cartoon on TV. She was 8, sweet, polite, the kind of kid who'd apologize if you tripped over her toys. Mrs. Clark left around 8. "There's leftover pizza," she said, "and Ava's bedtime is 10. Don't open the door for anyone." I nodded, locked the door behind her, and settled on the couch. For a while, everything was normal. Then Ava asked, "Can I turn off the lights for the movie?" I said sure, and she ran to the switch. The room went dark except for the flickering TV and the warm orange glow from the jack-o'-lantern on the windowsill. That's when I noticed it. Across the street in the window of the abandoned house, a faint light flickered on. At first, I thought maybe someone was exploring, or maybe some kids had snuck in. But the light didn't move. It just stayed there, faint and steady, in the second-floor window. I turned back to the movie, but a few minutes later, I looked again. The light was gone. Instead, there was a figure standing at the window, just a silhouette, small, thin, but definitely a person. I blinked, leaned forward, trying to make out more. The streetlight wasn't bright enough to see clearly, but the shape looked like a girl. And then, she waved. Slowly, like she knew me. I froze, staring. Ava noticed my silence and asked, "What's wrong?" "Nothing," I said quickly. "Just thought I saw something." I told myself it was probably a reflection, maybe from a decoration or a trick of the light. But I couldn't stop looking. The figure was gone again. I laughed nervously, trying to shake it off. "Okay," I whispered. "You're just tired." The rest of the night went quietly. I put Ava to bed around 10, turned off the TV, and started cleaning up. The window across the street was dark again. By the time I sat down with my phone, it was almost 11. That's when I heard it. A soft tapping, tick, 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 coming from the living room window. I looked over. Nothing. Then it came again. Tick, tick. I stood up, heart pounding, and walked closer. Outside, the street was empty. The jack-o'-lantern's light flickered faintly against the glass. Then I saw it, not outside, but across the street. The upstairs window of the old house was glowing again. But this time, the light wasn't still. It was swaying like someone holding a lantern, pacing back and forth. I grabbed my phone and zoomed in, trying to see through the grainy darkness. That's when the lantern stopped, and behind the glass, the figure appeared again, closer, clearer. It was a girl, pale face, long hair, wearing what looked like a white dress. And she wasn't waving this time, she was pointing, directly at me. My throat went dry. I backed away from the window, my hands shaking. Then my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Don't turn around." I froze. The room felt suddenly heavier, the air thick and cold. Then Ava screamed from upstairs. I dropped my phone and ran. She was standing in the hallway, crying, pointing toward her room. "There's someone in the window." I ran past her and flipped on the light. Her curtains were closed and nothing was there. I knelt beside her, trying to calm her down. "It's just the shadows, sweetie. It's okay." But she shook her head, tears running down her face. She said her name is Lily. She said you can see her too. Ava wouldn't stop crying. I told her it was okay, that it was just her imagination, but when she said that name, Lily, something inside me went cold. That was the name of the girl who died in that house. I had never told Ava that story. Mrs. Clark wouldn't have either. I tucked her into bed and left the light on. She didn't want me to close the door, so I left it open a crack and went downstairs. My hands were still shaking when I picked up my phone from the floor. The text was still there. "Don't turn around." I tried to call the number, but it just said, disconnected. The light from the street flickered through the window, and I realized something. The jack-o'-lantern's reflection wasn't where it should have been. It was slightly off, shifted to the left, almost like someone was standing in front of it. I leaned closer to the glass and froze. There, in the reflection, faint, blurry, but unmistakable, was a face. A pale face, long hair. Behind me. I spun around. No one. The room was empty, but the jack-o'-lantern light dimmed again, flickered, and went out completely. The power didn't cut out, only that light. The rest of the house stayed perfectly still. I grabbed my phone, turned on the flashlight, and tried to tell myself it was just nerves. Then I saw something on the glass. A handprint, small, smeared, like it had been pressed from the inside. I wiped it away, but the glass felt warm. That's when I heard it again, a faint tapping sound, this time from upstairs. Not from Ava's room, though, from the attic. We never went up there. It was unfinished, just storage space. But now something was moving up there. Slow, dragging footsteps. I crept up the stairs, heart pounding in my throat. The sound stopped when I reached the top. I called out softly. Ava? No answer. Her bedroom door was open wider now. I stepped inside. The bed was empty. The blanket was on the floor, still warm to the touch. And the window, the same one she said someone was looking through, was open. A cold gust of air hit me, carrying the faint sound of crying. I ran to the window. Across the street, the old Harris house was glowing again. The upstairs window was wide open, and there, standing in that same window, was Ava. She was looking right at me. I screamed her name, but she didn't react. She just stood there, completely still, staring out. Then the light in the Harris house went out. Everything went black. I bolted downstairs, out the front door, across the street barefoot, barely breathing. The Harris house looked even older up close. The front door was swollen shut, the paint flaking away. I forced it open, the wood creaking loudly as I stepped inside. It smelled of dust and rot. I shined my phone light around. The wallpaper peeled from the walls. The air felt heavier, thicker, as if the house hadn't breathed in years. Ava? I called out. The only answer was a faint voice from upstairs. She's here. I froze. It was Ava's voice, small, shaky, close. I ran up the stairs, taking them two at a time. The light from my phone trembled as I reached the second floor. Every door was closed, except one, the same room I'd seen lit up all night. I pushed the door open. The air felt colder instantly. Ava was standing by the window, facing the street. Her hair hung over her face, her arms limp at her sides. I rushed over, grabbed her shoulders. Ava, we need to go. She didn't move. Then, slowly, she turned her head toward me. Her eyes were open, but her pupils were huge, almost completely black. She said you were watching too. Her voice didn't sound like her own. It was deeper, flat, echoing slightly. I pulled her back toward the door, but she wouldn't budge. She wants you to see. The light from my phone flickered, then went out completely. And in the dark, I saw something move from the corner of the room. A shape, small, crawling across the floor. The beam of light came back for half a second, just enough to see a girl, no older than 10, in a white dress, face gray and cracked like porcelain. She was dragging herself toward me, one hand at a time. When she looked up, I saw that her eyes were hollow. "Why did you leave me there?" she whispered. I screamed, grabbed Ava, and ran. We didn't stop until we were outside, gasping for air on the porch. The old house was completely dark again. Ava was crying, clutching my arm, repeating the same thing over and over. She wanted to come home. When Mrs. Clark came back, the police were already there. They searched the Harris house, top to bottom, found nothing. No one, not even footprints. But when one of the officers came back out, he looked shaken. He said he found something under the window upstairs. A small toy mirror, the kind that fits in a child's hand. On the back, scratched into the glass, were 2 words. See me. We moved out a month later. I don't babysit anymore. But sometimes, when I look out my window late at night, I still see that house. It's still empty, still dark. Except sometimes, just for a few seconds, a faint light flickers on in the upstairs window. And if you look closely enough, someone waves back. They say small towns are quiet for a reason, because the fields remember everything that ever happened in them. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button and don't walk home alone tonight. It happened when I was 17. Our town wasn't the kind of place people visit, more like the kind they forget exists. We had one gas station, one grocery store, and miles of empty cornfields on every side. That Halloween, some of us gathered at a bonfire behind the high school. It was supposed to be just drinks, music, and the usual teenage lies about who hooked up with who. I didn't even want to go, but my best friend, Connor, wouldn't shut up about it. By midnight, most of the group had already left, and the fire was dying out. Connor was flirting with some girl, so I told him I'd walk home. It wasn't that far, just half a mile through a dirt road that cut through the cornfields. The air was cold, the kind that makes your breath hang in front of you like smoke. The moonlight barely reached the path, and all I could hear was the crunch of dirt under my shoes and the rustle of dry corn in the wind. Halfway through the walk, I heard something, a soft sound like crying. I stopped and listened. It was faint at first, but definitely there, a girl's voice, maybe a few yards into the corn. I called out, "Hello?" No answer. Then the crying stopped. I waited another second, my heart beating faster, then turned to keep walking. That's when I heard it again closer. A quiet sob, followed by a whisper. "Help me." It was right there, just a few rows into the corn. I froze. "Are you okay?" I asked, shining my phone light toward the sound. The beam cut through the rows of dry stalks, but there was nothing there, just endless corn swaying. "Please, don't leave me." Her voice trembled like she'd been crying for hours. Something in me said to run, but curiosity kept me rooted. Maybe it was some girl from the bonfire who got lost? I stepped into the corn. The stalks brushed against my jacket, and the dirt felt soft under my shoes. I walked a few steps, shining my light in every direction. "Where are you?" I asked. "Here." It came from behind me. I spun around, light trembling in my hand, but again, nothing. Just the rustle of corn. That's when my phone light flickered, then died completely. I smacked the side of it, but it wouldn't turn back on. The darkness was total, no sound, no light, no sense of direction, just that sickening quiet. "Then," she whispered again, "why did you leave me?" Her voice was right next to my ear. I bolted, crashing through the corn, not caring where I was going. My jacket snagged on stalks, tearing, but I didn't stop until I saw the dirt road again. I stumbled back onto it, gasping for air. My hands were shaking so hard I almost dropped my phone when the screen suddenly came back to life. It buzzed a notification. A new photo. My heart nearly stopped when I opened it. It was a picture of me standing in the middle of the cornfield, my back turned. It had been taken just seconds ago. I looked around wildly. No one. Just the wind moving through the crops. I sprinted the rest of the way home, slammed the door behind me, and locked it. My parents were asleep, and I didn't want to wake them, so I went straight to my room. I shut the blinds, turned on every light, and sat on my bed staring at that photo. Whatever took it, had been right behind me. The next morning, I showed Connor. He thought it was a prank. "Probably someone from the party," he said. "They followed you to mess with you." But when I zoomed in on the picture, something didn't make sense. There was no flash, no blur, no reflection of light at all. It looked old, like the kind of photo you'd get from one of those early 2000s flip phones. That night, I kept my window closed, locked, and tried to ignore the feeling that someone was watching. Around 1 a.m., my phone buzzed again. Same unknown number, another picture. This time, it was my house, my bedroom window, taken from outside. I jumped up, pulled back the curtains. No one. The yard was empty. I texted back, "Who is this?" 3 dots appeared, then a reply. "You left me in the field." My stomach turned. I typed, "Who are you?" No reply. Then another photo came in, the same one from before me standing in the cornfield. But now, there was someone else in it. A girl, standing behind me, half hidden in the corn. Her face was pale, her eyes pitch black, and her mouth open too wide, like she was screaming silently. I dropped the phone and backed away, my heart pounding. It buzzed again. One final message. "You remember me now." I barely slept that night. Every creak of the house sounded like someone walking in the hallway. Every whisper of wind felt like it came from inside the walls. By morning, I was pale, exhausted, and jumpy enough that even my dad noticed. When I told him what happened, the crying, the photos, he didn't believe a word of it. But when I showed him the pictures, his face changed. He didn't say it, but I could tell he was scared too. He called the sheriff. By noon, 2 deputies were at our house. They asked questions I could barely answer about the number, the photos, the field. They decided to go out and check it with me. The cornfield looked different in the daylight. The air was still, the stalks golden and dry, swaying just slightly in the wind. It almost looked peaceful, but when we stepped inside, everything felt wrong again. The smell of damp dirt, the sound of boots brushing against dead stalks, and under it all, that same faint smell I remembered from last night. Sweet, but rotten. One of the deputies, a man named Collins, said, "This the spot?" I nodded. I didn't have to check. I just knew. The other deputy radioed for the sheriff and started marking the area. Then Collins kicked at something buried in the dirt. It made a dull metallic sound. He bent down and brushed away the soil. A phone. Not a smartphone, an old silver flip phone, caked with dirt. The kind people hadn't used in over a decade. He picked it up carefully, then flipped it open. The screen glowed blue for a second, and turned on. No one said a word. He clicked the photo gallery. There were pictures, hundreds of them, all dark, grainy, like they'd been taken through corn. And then, I saw one that made my knees go weak. It was me, standing in the field, looking lost. Then another, and another from different angles. Someone had been taking pictures of me all night. Collins scrolled back through older ones. Some were of people I didn't recognize, and some were of a girl. She couldn't have been older than 16. Her hair was long and dark, her eyes wide and empty. In every photo, she looked wrong, like she'd been standing too still for too long. The last picture was different. It showed the girl lying down, her face half covered in dirt, eyes open. In the background, a scarecrow. That was when the sheriff himself arrived. He took one look at the phone and said quietly, "We've seen this before." I asked him what he meant, but he didn't answer right away. He motioned for us to follow him deeper into the field. We walked for what felt like half an hour until we reached the edge of a clearing. In the center stood a scarecrow tall, weathered, its clothes torn, straw spilling out from the seams. The wind made it creak slightly as it swayed. "This is where they found her," the sheriff said. 13 years ago, girl named Megan Ellis. Went missing on Halloween night. He glanced at me. She was 17, same age as you. He said the police had searched for days before finding her body here, buried at the base of the scarecrow. They never caught whoever did it. I just stood there, trying to breathe, because I remembered what she'd whispered to me last night. "Why did you leave me?" The sheriff ordered the area taped off. He told me to go home, said they'd take care of everything. I didn't argue. When I got home, I deleted the unknown number from my phone, blocked it, erased the photos, everything. But the flip phone stayed with the police. Or so I thought. That night, I was lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, when I heard something. A faint vibration, buzzed, buzzed. It wasn't my phone. I left it charging across the room. The sound came from my closet. I got up slowly, the floorboards creaking under my feet. The sound buzzed again longer this time. I opened the closet door. On the top shelf, between some boxes, something was glowing faintly blue. My blood turned to ice. It was the same flip phone, the same one they'd taken to the station. I picked it up with trembling hands. The screen said, "One new message." I opened it. It was a photo, taken from outside my house, through my bedroom window, just now, and in the reflection of the glass, barely visible behind me was her. The same girl from the field. Her mouth was open again, wider than any human mouth should be, and it looked like she was screaming my name. The phone buzzed again. "Don't let me call it again." The message blinked on the screen, then vanished. The phone powered off by itself. I dropped it and stumbled back, heart hammering, staring at the dark window. Outside, the cornfield was just visible under the moonlight. The scarecrow still stood in the distance. And then I saw it move. Not from the wind, but like someone was standing behind it, holding it up. Its head tilted slowly to the side, as if watching me. By the next morning, the phone was gone. I told my parents, the sheriff, everyone. No one believed me. The official story was that I was just shaken up, that someone had broken into the house as a prank. But last week, nearly a year later, I got a package in the mail, no return address. Inside was that same silver flip phone. I didn't touch it. But when I picked up the box, the screen lit up on its own, and in faint letters across the display, one message appeared. "It's your turn to wait in the corn." There's something about college dorms at night. They never feel completely empty, even when you're the only one left. If you're new here, subscribe before you turn off your lights tonight, because this story, it's one I still can't explain. It happened 2 years ago when I was a sophomore in college. Our fall semester ended just after Halloween weekend, and most of the students left early for break. I stayed behind, I had a late exam, and didn't feel like driving home. By the time the weekend rolled around, the dorm was practically silent. Every door in the hallway was locked, every room dark. You could walk down the corridor and hear your own footsteps echo back at you. I didn't mind at first. The quiet was nice, peaceful, but that peace didn't last. It started on Saturday night. I was sitting in bed watching a movie when I heard a sound. Knock, knock, knock. 3 soft taps, not from the door to the hallway, but from inside my closet. I froze. The closet door was only about 6 feet from my bed, a narrow, beige thing with a round handle that always rattled a little when you opened it. I muted the movie. Silence. Then again. Knock, knock. A little louder this time. I stared at the door, my throat dry. It wasn't like in horror movies where you instantly go investigate. No, I just sat there, waiting for it to stop. Eventually, it did. I convinced myself it was the pipes, or maybe the wind. It was an old dorm building, after all. Still, I left the lights on when I went to bed. The next night, I was doing homework when it happened again. Same time around 11 p.m. Same sound. Knock, knock, knock. I walked up this time, phone in hand, recording. The second I reached for the knob, the knocking stopped. Silence again. I opened the door. Nothing. Just a row of hanging clothes and a few boxes on the floor. I laughed nervously and said out loud, "Real funny." But then I heard something that made the air leave my lungs. A whisper, coming from inside the closet. "Don't close it." I jumped back and slammed the door shut so fast that one of my shirts fell off the hanger. My heart was pounding out of my chest. I waited, staring at the door, phone still recording, but the whisper didn't come again. When I played the video back, I expected nothing but silence. But at the end of the clip, right before I closed the door, you can hear it faint, but clear. "Don't close it." I showed the recording to my RA the next morning. He said it was probably just someone in the room next door. But I checked. Both rooms beside mine were empty. That night, I pushed my desk chair against the closet door before going to bed. Around midnight, I woke up to a soft scraping sound like wood dragging slowly against wood. I looked over. The chair was moving. It wasn't sliding on its own, it was being pushed from inside the closet. I couldn't breathe. The metal legs squealed faintly as the chair slid just enough for the door to open a crack. Then silence again. I grabbed my phone and turned on the flashlight, hands shaking. I pointed it toward the crack and saw something I can't forget. An eye. Someone was looking back at me through the gap in the door. I jumped up and ran out into the hallway, heart racing, pounding on my RA's door. He came out, groggy, annoyed, but followed me back to my room. When we opened the closet, no one was there. The clothes were undisturbed, boxes untouched. He looked at me like I was crazy. "It's just stress," he said. "You've been here alone too long." He left. I didn't sleep that night. By Monday morning, I was exhausted. My eyes burned from staying awake, but I couldn't bring myself to leave the room. Something about walking away from it from that closet felt wrong, like it was waiting for me to go. At noon, I got a message from my roommate, Ethan. He'd gone home for the weekend. "Hey, did you mess with my stuff? My jacket was on the floor in your video." I froze. I hadn't sent him any video. I texted back, "What video?" He replied instantly, "The one you sent last night. You were sitting on the bed talking, but something moved behind you." My stomach dropped. I checked my messages. There, it was a video sent from my number at 2:17 a.m. I didn't remember recording anything. When I played it, the blood drained from my face. It was me sitting on my bed, half asleep, mumbling something. Behind me, the closet door was wide open, and in the corner of the frame, something dark was crouched, just inside its face, hidden in the shadow. As the video went on, the figure leaned forward just enough for the camera to catch the faint outline of a grin. Then the screen cut to black. I deleted the video immediately. I didn't even want to know what I had been saying. I packed my bag that morning and told the housing office I was leaving early. They didn't ask questions, just told me to leave my key at the desk. But as I was locking up, I noticed something carved into the inside of the closet door. It hadn't been there before. 3 words, scratched deep into the wood. Don't wake up. I didn't go back to that dorm for a week. When I finally returned to grab the rest of my stuff, it was daytime, and I brought a friend with me. The air inside was stale, like the room hadn't been opened in years. Nothing was out of place except the closet door. It was open again. I remember my friend asking, "Didn't you say you locked it?" I didn't answer. I just closed it slowly, locked it, and walked away. I thought that would be the end of it. But the sounds followed me. A few weeks later, I moved into a small, off-campus apartment, ground floor, newer building, normal walls, normal lighting. For the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe again. The first night was quiet. The second night wasn't. At exactly 12:03 a.m., I heard it again. Knock, knock, knock. Not from the closet this time, from the wall behind my bed. I sat up, frozen. The same rhythm, the same distance between each knock. Knock, knock. It felt impossible, like the sound had followed me here. I told myself it had to be the neighbor next door. Maybe they were hanging something. But when I asked them the next morning, they said they hadn't been home. That night, the knocking came again. This time, from the closet. I turned on the lights, opened the door, and stepped inside. Empty. But when I turned to leave, I noticed something drawn on the inside of the door. 3 faint lines like fingernail scratch. I ran my hand over them and felt how deep they were. Fresh. That's when I realized something else. The lines weren't random. They formed a word. Hair. After that, I started recording every night. I'd set my phone on the desk, camera facing the closet, and go to sleep. The first few nights, nothing. Then, on the 5th night, I woke up to my phone buzzing. It had sent a video to my roommate again, without me touching it. When I opened the file, my stomach dropped. The video started, like always me sleeping, the closet door closed. Then, at 2:11 a.m., the door handle began to turn. Slowly, quietly. The door creaked open, and something stepped out. Not a person, not exactly. It looked like me. Same hair, same pajamas. But the thing didn't move like me. Its head twitched, tilting from side to side as it leaned over the bed. It bent down until its face was inches from mine, the real me, asleep. And then it whispered, "Don't wake up this time." The screen went black. I moved again. I didn't care about the deposit, didn't care about my grades. I just wanted to get away. But even after I left, the whispers didn't stop. Some nights, I'd hear it faintly when I was half asleep, a voice that sounded just like mine, repeating the same words over and over. Don't wake up. I started staying at my boyfriend's apartment after that. He thought I was just anxious. One night, he joked about it. "You sure your closet ghost isn't jealous?" I laughed. But deep down, I knew something had followed me, because when he fell asleep, I heard the knocking again. From his closet. Knock, knock, knock. A few days later, I couldn't take it anymore. I decided to talk to campus security. The officer I spoke to was older, gray hair, quiet voice. He listened to everything. When I mentioned the dorm room number, he frowned. "Building C, room 217?" he asked. I nodded. He exhaled slowly, looked away. That room shouldn't have been assigned to anyone. I felt cold all over. Why? He rubbed his temples before answering. Because there was a girl who lived there years ago. She didn't make it through midterms. They found her in the closet. No one's supposed to be in that room. I just sat there, numb. He looked at me and said quietly, "Sometimes we think the door's closed for good, but maybe she never stopped trying to open it." That night, I slept with every light on. At some point after midnight, my phone buzzed. A new message, new number, new contact. Just one video file. When I opened it, it was a recording of me sleeping, same camera angle, same desk setup, but in my new apartment. The timestamp was from last night. The door behind me opened slowly, and someone stepped into the frame. It was me again, only this time, my eyes were open. I wasn't asleep. The camera caught me smiling, walking to the bed, sitting down beside myself. Then the figure leaned close to the camera, whispering something that barely came through the audio. When I turned the volume all the way up, I heard it clearly. "You woke up." The screen went black. I smashed the phone that night, bought a new one the next day. But sometimes, when I scroll through the photo gallery, a black thumbnail appears for a split second like a video trying to load. I delete it every time, but it always comes back. The file name never changes. Some doors are meant to stay closed. If you're still watching, make sure you're subscribed. I post true horror every week. Real stories from real people who wish they never saw what they did. Tell me in the comments, would you have opened the closet door? Until next time, keep your lights low and don't answer the knocks.